Oh, you bastard. Son of a bitch! I don't mind this one. Now I think my power is too much. Oh shit, didn't want to do that. What's up, all? Welcome to the stream. Appreciate you being here.
I'm excited. Range, retro vision.
Oh, you bastard. Okay. No. Lay down. Hey, what's up? bastard. Son of a bitch. No, lay down. You're okay.
Tears of love. Experimental pill.
Hey, what's up? Welcome to my stream. Welcome to watch me die.
Punch down. Tears down. I can see forever. 48-hour energy. Lemon party. Health up. magician. Tears up.
Thank you all for coming and watching the stream. Appreciate y'all. I think this is the most people I had watching my stream as it's live. Where are y'all from? I'm from Canada. And right now Canada doesn't make me proud to be a Canadian. As I sit and watch Mark Carney run our country into the ground, it's really, really, really disheartening, depressing. Like, it's almost put a sense of hopelessness in me. Because they're destroying the economy purposely. What do y'all think about what I just said about the economy and whatnot?
Paralysis. Is this Sloth? I think this is supposed to be Sloth or Pestilence, one of them.
Welcome to the stream, people. Oh, you bastard! Son of a biatch! Oh, fuck off. Fucking bullshit. Oh, that's a new ending. I didn't have this ending. Somehow I just got it. I've never seen it like this. I've got 124 secrets of 637. I need a lot more. And bestiary, I haven't seen all the beasts yet. I've seen a lot, but not all of them. Like there's still large missing. Whippersnapper. Peeping fatty. Moment. And these are bosses. Well, room bosses. Still some I haven't seen here. So large items too I have to find. I've still got large challenges to do too, shit. I only did Pitch Black and Highbrow and Waka Waka. But there's still large more to do. And then on top of it, like I've only got 4 badges here, and one of them's normal and hard, but the rest I still need large to do. I beat it with Poop and Azazel. Have any of you guys played this game, or? Oh, you bastards. Oh, get off of me! Okay.
Tape here, and it's called The Prophecies because okay, now we have kind of a special tape here, and it's called The Prophecies because it's based on a book that Billy wrote called The Prophecies, but the prophecies, most of them anyway, don't come from him. They're a collection of information from different sources. Throughout the contact notes, in several cases and several times, that they gave him some prophetic things that would happen in the near future. For instance, in 75, Billy asked for any predictions for the coming year. And they would give him some predictions, usually just within the next coming year's time for the general area. But most of these predictions were all based just on political events and maybe a large snowfall causing damage, local crime, things like that. If there was any political problems, maybe leading to a death or an assassination, they would usually comment on things like that. And those prophecies generally would always come from Semjase. Billy also got prophetic information from other levels. For instance, when he was younger, during his time of training with Ascot from the Tao universe, in 1956, he gave him a series of prophetic things also, which we went over somewhat on the contact notes. And that primarily dealt with a span of time dealing with several assassination and murders of political figures, which she felt was necessary actually for events to actually unfold the way that they were supposed to. Billy also received prophetic information from what's called the Patali level. As I talked earlier on one of the tapes, on the creation tapes, about the different levels that man can actually evolve to, the highest level that we evolve to as a spirit form is called the Patali level. Some people think of this as a group consciousness level. Billy was able to receive prophetic information also from this level, which was kind of filtered down to him through the High Council of the Pleiades world. And that information was received by him and passed on also. So we have information from several different sources here. Ascot, Semjase, Patali, and even Billy himself, who understands some forms of future prediction, have all gone together to put together this little book. Now, some of the prophecies, of course, are from conversations when he had in the ships and so forth, but the prophecies that came from the Patali level were of a different kind. When you receive transmissions from a higher life form like this, they don't come in the form of language. They come in the form of symbols, and that comes through on what's called spiritual telepathy. Spiritual telepathy, unlike material or primary telepathy, is very, very long range, and it doesn't come in an audible form. It comes in a series of symbols, which the person who's a student understands it then, must then convert the symbols into language and tell the story properly. So one has to be trained and understand the symbol language very well to be able to do that. When Billy was very young, part of his consciousness and memory and abilities and knowledge of the symbol language was unlocked, and over the years of study and so forth, he learned more and more about this, so he was able then to convert the symbols into language. Billy's own predictions are not the results of any type of future vision, but Kabbalistic calculations. The transmissions that he gets from ETs and higher spiritual levels are more accurate and far more sweeping as far as the type of information they can get. Billy then receives these types of transmissions in the spiritual language of symbols, and then he translates them into our language. This is different, he says, than the abilities of seers, he calls, who we normally, some other prophets and seers who give us, in our modern times, give us prophetic statements. He says they see the future usually through their own psychic abilities, and it isn't from the spiritual language that he's talking about. The problem therein is that without use of obtaining information through the symbol language, the prophecies generally will always be a mixture of the own individual's egos, fears, and desires, and they're never very accurate. I think we're seeing that in our own time. There's an awful lot of people, psychics, and people predicting things, one thing and the other, but, they're never really very accurate. Maybe they are accurate on a few things, and then they're way off on others. So there certainly isn't any continuing high probability of accuracy by anybody that I know of. So what Billy's talking about is there can't be an exact science to seeing the future, because such does exist, but it involves the knowledge of a particular language of symbols that most people, or practically no one else on the planet, really has any knowledge of. Interesting thing about the prophecies, the way they're written, and in many areas they're very vague, and in many areas it kind of prompts you to ask more and want to know more about it. But Billy says that he doesn't make any attempt to explain the prophecies any more in detail than he's gone into here, because he believes only a person who can understand the truth himself, when it is given to him in hidden form, is able to bear or tolerate it, is how he puts it. Which means that the prophecies themselves have some hidden meanings in different areas, and are a little hard to understand to most of us. But for one who understands prophecy, and one who understands future vision, or may not know some of the symbols, they would be able to unravel these mysteries on their own. And his point is well taken, that if we don't have the level of knowledge to understand it, then we probably shouldn't even have the information. He makes an analogy as to our stomachs, that just like our stomach, which is only capable of digesting digestible foods, it can't digest poisons and rocks and other things that you stick in it, that the human understanding can only take in what it can comprehend, that which it can understand, or what is digestible in an understanding form. If you try to take in information that's too high for you or too difficult to understand, it's just going to overpower you and probably cause you frustration, irritation, or whatever. Billy is also able to calculate a person's death and his past life, something that he was taught and understands quite well. But he says these are the sort of things that when he speaks to someone and they have good reason to want to know about these things, and he's more than happy to provide that. But he's always cautious about letting predictions out too clearly, or letting certain people know certain things, because it leads, unfortunately, to fear or whatever in that individual. Predictions, let me clear up a couple things now. Predictions, what we call a prediction, that's a future event. These are computed with Kabbalistic calculations, and they lead to very exacting results. Predictions always come to pass, he says, very absolutely accurately. That's because a prediction rests on an established fact. If it proceeds to a certain outcome or effect, it has to take place because of the factual knowledge that it started with. So it's kind of like logic. If you take a logical statement and allow it to move forward, it comes to a logical conclusion by virtue of its own clarity of thought and truth. So prediction seems to be something like that. If you start with an established fact, you can calculate then the result, more or less, of that prediction or that fact that's been started in motion. So it's very exacting. Prophecy, though, is slightly different, he says. They're different. And a prophecy is generally just like a warning function. It can show an end result, but that result might come from certain facts if there's no change happens in a certain time. So it's like a warning about something to happen, but free will could come into play there. But if no free will comes in or nothing gets involved, then the prophecy becomes a prediction, and he says will surely come to pass. So we have some difference here between a prediction and a prophecy. A prediction is something that's almost absolute, that can be calculated based on known facts and will almost have a positive outcome. A prophecy is more of a warning and can actually be interfered with, but if nothing happens to change a prophecy, then it becomes a prediction by virtue of the fact that nothing was done to stop it, and it also will come to pass. Prophecy also is quite variable according to the free will of men, and that's the point he was trying to make in the basic difference between them. That when we hear a prophetic statement, it's a warning about something, and we have the possibility of maybe doing something about it. Therefore, it's not certain that a prophesied event will take place if it's changed by a good evolution. And but what he means by that is that this means that a person's evolution, or in other words, your continued growth of knowledge, accumulation of spiritual knowledge, that has to happen without the knowledge of a prophesied event getting in the way or interfering with your natural course of evolution. Say you're just going through your life and you're moving towards something. You're living your life in a certain way, and suddenly a prophecy comes along that you find very disturbing. You think it's going to have some effect on you, and you change your life, based on this prophecy. Maybe you react differently, or you just change the course of events in your life. You have then interfered with your normal evolution, which would run its course and provided certain kinds of learning. So, in this respect, then a prophecy is not good for a person to know, especially if he doesn't accurately understand the ending or what's going to happen. Prophecies usually only demonstrate one possibility, and at the same time they just demonstrate one type of warning. So we have to regard prophecies then as something that one can't be changed because of free will, and regard them as kind of a warning then. Prophecies should never be clearly revealed, he says, because the person then will make changes in an evolution. The evolution then is thrown off because the person does something that he normally wouldn't. Also, there's certain events in a prophecy which usually should be kept secret, because here he's insinuating that one of the problems with prophecy is that people overreact. And I see that even today, where people are becoming more and more sensitive about predictions that psychics make and so forth about the great earthquake in California or the entire West Coast sinking into the water. These things can cause great fear and disruption in people's lives. I know several people right now who have really disrupted their entire lives, moving their families, losing their jobs, selling their homes and so forth, out of fear because of predictions that they read in the paper or in newsletters that are being circulated around the country. And this, for people who are slightly unstable and are easily drawn to fear or negative things, this is very disruptive to them. They just can't help themselves. And so it really is not serving, the proper interest that the predictor probably had in mind. You have to be very careful when you predict things and come about your predictions, like saying that they are real, that they're really going to happen, because it can be very disruptive to people's lives, and like I say, causing people an awful lot of fear, and we certainly don't want that. Certain information within prophecies must also be kind of vague, he says, so only people with a certain level of understanding would be capable of decoding them. I guess that would be similar to like Nostradamus, and he has all these quatrains with, dates and time schedules and so forth, and nobody ever seems to get straight. I noticed that there was a book out just about a year or so ago, some people claiming that they had finally unlocked the Nostradamus code, and they felt they'd nailed it down, and now you could count on this book. Well, I've had that book on the shelf, and so far all the events they said that would happen in '92, none of them have happened. So, again, they've goofed. They were not able to properly decode them. Because of that, they wasted a lot of people's time, money. A lot of people bought the book and probably changed things in their life based on that, or filled their head with a bunch of nonsense that didn't really happen. So these people were behaving rather irresponsibly by claiming to have done so much and really have done nothing at all. This leads us to kind of one final statement on this, and then we'll move into some of the prophecies and predictions. But be very careful of those who prophesize. Also, a little caution to you out there who may be wanting to do some predicting or prophesizing. Even though you think you may have learned some ways of calculating it, you may be gaining in some visions and so forth that seem to come true now and then. Be very careful in these difficult times coming up in the near future about making predictions or prophecies of any kind. Because for the most part, if you only know a little bit about prophecy or prediction, you're going to be wrong. And it's this type of information where a little bit of knowledge is dangerous. If you don't really know what you're doing, Billy says in the times coming, which are very dangerous, which world events are going to be very dramatic, if you are certain predictors and so-called seers and prophetic psychic people are going to be saying things that are going to be coming happen, and they're not going to happen, they're going to cause a lot of fear and trouble with people, and a lot of psychics and predictors are going to wind up being killed or murdered, whatever, by people who are just driven insane by being misled in their lives by these psychic predictions. We know we're going to have obviously some difficult times coming up with natural disasters and everything, so here's a little tip during difficult times. Don't be predicting things and causing people to change their lives and becoming responsible for other people's lives unless you're really sure about what you know what you're doing. If you start predicting things and change people's lives and it doesn't really happen, then there's liable to be some recourse into your life. In the introduction in Billy's book, he's taking a little time to remind people here on Earth of the times that we are living in. And as I mentioned to you before, we're in this so-called New Age period we're moving into, where geographically we're moving into this close proximity to the central sun. This time period is obviously it is a time of change when the stepped-up radiations from the central sun then start affecting everything on the planet, including the planet itself. So it's a time where things speed up. It's a time of turmoil because as things speed up, it goes a little too fast for society and for certain people, so we have a lot of problems. The predictions of past from biblical times, which are still coming true, we have to be very careful about. They're happening. And he cautions us that as a race, as a planet, we're really doing nothing about the major problems on our planet. He says since 1974, the total atomic destruction of the Earth has been averted by some very powerful beings, extraterrestrials. That, of course, was some of the work of Ascot and his younger contacts. That danger is past. That was existing then. But the danger of a third world war has not been removed at all. It's still going to happen pretty much just exactly the way that it's predicted and has been predicted for a couple of thousand years because the people are, are doing nothing to change it. Billy says, look to the beginning of the Third World War to come during a time when we think things are very peaceful. Suddenly, without any warning at all, in the middle of the night, the cry of war is going to break out in the middle of the night. And it's going to be a great surprise to everybody here. So we want to look perhaps right now. There's hardly any peace anywhere on the planet. There's wars everywhere.
Oh, I didn't want to run over that.
Okay, let's move into some of the more definite prophecies. And let me start a little bit with some of the prophecies from the Talmud of Manuel, which is the original teachings and thoughts of Manuel, who is wrongly called Jesus Christ. One of the important things in there that we all have heard is the prediction that he said that he would return. Some people believe he's returning in 2,000 years. Well, that isn't exactly what was in there. He just says that it will come to pass in 2,000 years when mankind has become capable of better thought, that his teachings will be revealed again unfalsified. And that's exactly what happened in 1963 when his original writings were dug up. Actually, the writings were written by Judas Iscariot. They were dug up. They've been translated, and they are now out in a little book called the Talmud of Manuel. He mentions also in those writings that there will be a new prophet in our time, or what he calls the distant future then, that will not possess as much power over evil or disease as he does, but the new prophet of our time will have the knowledge, which is the same as his, will have the knowledge and understanding of creation, and will be able to, as he put it, shake the foundations of earth with the revelations of the truth that's brought forth. He goes on also to mention, which is kind of interesting here, that the time when his his teachings will be revealed, he says, will be a time when a war is threatened from space, and many new gods will seek dominion over the earth. Again, as we mentioned earlier, that Emmanuel is aware that gods are humans, and they are humans, great wisdom kings on the highest realms of physical evolution, who exert great force and knowledge over other people. So here he's talking about that there will be a time, and apparently it's very much time about right now, where there will be a war threatened from space. He also goes on to talk about the prophet of the current time of our time will lead a very difficult life, will be persecuted greatly. There's also some prophetic statements in the Talmud of Emmanuel at the time when Emmanuel was at the Mount of Olives talking to his followers, and they're asking them about these signs that he's talking about, when they're going to happen. And he says, take care and beware that in the future time that he's, in 2,000 years that he's talking about, that he says many people will come and try to take credit for him, claiming that they are Emmanuel. They will try to deceive people. There will be a lot of rumors of war, but people shouldn't really be too afraid, because this really isn't the end. It's not the end of the world. But it is a time when people are going to rise up against each other. One kingdom will rise up against another one. There's going to be great earthquakes and great water, he says, back and forth. This is all the beginning of the tribulations, he says. Man will be delivered in affliction. There'll be massive amounts of death. There are going to be cults rise up against each other. Large amounts of blood will flow. Many people are going to die in these battles between these groups. Hate is on the rise. But he says anybody who really believes in the truth, people that really find the truth within creation, will be able to survive all of this. It says when there's a comment in here also, it says, when the people see the horror of the devastation of Jerusalem, of which has been spoken by prophets, then the end will come. So apparently, through all this destruction of the war and everything that's apparently going to be starting soon, at some point towards the end of it, then we'll see all the destruction and devastation of the places in and around Jerusalem, and that will be close to the end. The next warning from Emmanuel is for the Jewish nation during this time of great war, and he's cautioning the people, the Jewish people, to hide, to flee to the mountains, especially to women who are pregnant, to run for their lives, really, because of the mass destruction that's going to hit in their country. Says there will be a great affliction as never before seen since the beginning of the world. It's going to be some of the worst death and large amounts of death to ever happen on our planet. He also mentions, which is kind of interesting, that metal machines will be built for the air, the sea, and the land. The land is going to rot. He talks about heavy projectiles, metal projectiles that burn the world, and nothing will be spared. It says the foundations of life will be laid in the projectiles so they can kindle the deadly fire with it. Then he talks about if at that time, when we're launching all of these projectiles in the war, if the sons of heaven do not interfere, he says that almost no one will survive. He says this will come at a time when the population will be 10 times 500 million people, where 2 parts of them will be exterminated and killed. So he's talking, it actually mentions there.
So you're aware, that's the 2 parts of them are 10 times the 500 million. That would be 5 billion people, which this was made in 1992, and the Committee of 300 had said that they wanted to eliminate or get rid of as many people as possible, and what they wanted to do was do away with 4 billion people at least, by any means possible, because according to them, we are goyim, human cattle, and we're eating up all the resources, so they need to kill us all off. And they seem to be doing it. What they're doing over in the Middle East, that's their plan.
About 2/3 of the people, the population of the planet, will die during this terrible time of war. He cautions us that during this time of war, he says there's going to be many false prophets. There will be, excuse me, many people claiming to be him, to be an Emmanuel. He says we will hear statements where people will be saying that he's in the desert. Everybody go out and see Emmanuel there. Or he's over here at the ocean, or he's in the chambers. He says, don't believe that. He says there's just going to...
Okay, this Billy guy wrote this, did all this in 1948, 1950. This tape was made in 1992, and now we're 2026. So if you think about it, 1950, That's like 70, 80 years ago. This guy wrote all this down, all these prophecies and predictions.
A lot of lying, because he says he does return, that physically he will return, but he will make himself known. Because he says his coming will be with the host of the sons of heaven, by whom I have my life again at that time. So he's talking about that again, just as it says in the Talmud of Emmanuel, that his life will once again be procreated and caused to be at this time by benefit of the sons of heaven, the heavenly fathers, and they will help him one more time to make his life known. Another collection of prophecies that's also mentioned in the book were the prophetic things that were explained to him by Ascot, and that came back in 1956. Apparently among Ascot's responsibilities and duties during her mission was to prevent a terrible universe catastrophe. It says in the notes that they were very concerned that the events on Earth may actually cause some destruction of the universe itself. Now, it seems pretty amazing that us little Earthmen could actually do anything that would disturb the universe, and especially back in the 60s. And they were very concerned up through the year 1974 that some doomsday device that the certain people were playing with could actually destroy part of the universe. I never took that too seriously until just recently. I found out that currently now, here in 1992, that certain scientists are actually discovering that our giant sun and some of our large gas ball planets may actually, instead of being nuclear reaction type things like we've always thought, are not at all, but in fact seem to be drawing energy from other dimensions. That at the top of these great sources of power, like our sun, on the very top pole and on the bottom pole, there is sort of a hexagon area at the top that seems to be receiving energy, and they have mathematically calculated the probability this may be true, that our sun may indeed be connected to other universes or other dimensions as we think of it through the surface area on the top and the bottom of the sun, which means that our sun itself isn't really a nuclear explosion, that somehow it's being heated up actually by dimensional energy. And a comment along that line was even from the Pleiadians that the sun itself is not quite what we think it is, that even though the surface temperature is quite hot, that we will be surprised to find out once our technology advances that it's actually cooler on the inside, that it's not the great explosion in the middle that we think it is. So possibly the sun somehow do receive energy from other dimensions, and that could be perhaps what the ETs were worried about in the 60s, that if we were to set off some of these devices which could upset actually the solar system, some sort of energy or effect could be set off affecting other dimensions, which could unleash untold problems that may, in effect, actually destroy part of the universe as they were so worried about. Well, apparently, Ascot in those years took whatever steps she felt was necessary and did intervene in mankind to prevent those certain events from happening. So, good for her. There was warnings always from Ascot during those times, too, where she talked about future events back in the 56 that, which actually pertain to now, because she was talking about, America, Russia, and China are pushing for like world domination. They're kind of fighting it out. Well, Russia, of course, has broke up, and that's changed a little bit, and China hasn't really played their hand yet. But she says, at this particular time, we got to be very careful of the Jewish Zionists, who are plotting a lot of murderous deeds and violence and terrorism, and actually are working.
I think the Jewish Zionists are doing just what he's saying right now. If you think about it, over there, the Zionists, watch, listen to what he says here about it. And remember, this was all done in 1950, and then Billy Meyer had rewrote it in 1981, and Randolph Winters put it on tape in 1992.
America, Russia, and China are pushing for like world domination. They're kind of fighting it out. Well, Russia, of course, has broke up, and that's changed a little bit, and China hasn't really played their hand yet. Because at this particular time, we have to be very careful of the Jewish
Oh, you bastard.
who are plotting a lot of murderous deeds and violence and terrorism, and actually are working in conjunction with certain Christian religions to take over certain areas of the world. So certainly in the face of the might of America and Russia and other countries. In China, certain elements of the Jewish people, the Jewish Zionists, and certain Christian
Oh my God!
are plotting actually how they can take over certain parts of the planet themselves. It's mentioned in here that the people of Earth should take care not to help Israel. For every small assistance is refunctioned by them into a deadly weapon against the back at us. So historically, it's talking about that they're suggesting that it's going to be a natural event for the destruction of Israel, and it is for the betterment of mankind. Not that death is good, it's just that we are not aware really of what a terrible part that Israel will actually play in the mass destruction and loss of life.
I think we can see what kind of terrible part Israel's playing.
There's a whole series of prophecies given to Billy then in 1956, which are now quite a few years old. And I'll just dash over them for you. I had gone over them a little bit in the contact notes themselves, but since we have a tape here just on prophecies, I'll reiterate some of these events because it's important also to note that these events have all come to pass and with terrible accuracy. I say terrible because we're going to read off a list of deaths here and so forth. And all these events came to pass exactly as Askett said they would, which only confirms again their very incredible technology and their abilities. She says the unavoidable events of the future, and here she's talking in 1956, she says these events will happen with absolute exactness and accuracy, just as she's about to explain them to Billy. And I'll just run over them because I have gone over them one more time. She first talked about the murder of Joseph Stalin, which would be on March 5th, 1953, and that was done by the party itself. It says here that Stalin was showing too much friendliness towards the Jewish Zionist terrorists, and so for that reason he was poisoned. He mentions in there also his successor, Nikita Khrushchev, will be forced out of office in '64, and that was to give the rationalized Zionist hostilities its last form, was the expression. So he says during that time period in America, Fitzgerald Kennedy will be elected to office, but he will be murdered in '63, it says, by the secret order of the American Security Organization, the CIA. The day of his death will be November 22nd, 1962 in Dallas, Texas. It says there will be a second political assassination following just 5 years after that. Through the order of the same organization, a presidential candidate will be killed. His death will be on June 6, 1968 in Los Angeles. His name will be Robert Kennedy, a brother of the president. Says the Holy Office, in Rome will also be pulled in the worldwide political and religious intrigue. Just the same as with Stalin, a poison will be used to kill Pope John XIII, who will only serve for a very short time. His successor, Pope Paul VI, will be removed by the same method by intrigues, it says, of the cardinals in cooperation again with the Jewish Zionist extremists, who for quite some time have already been planning their murderous schemes and are trying to direct the future events, to their own will. Greece is also chosen, it says, for the assassination of head of state. For the future, lets it be known that King Paul I will die on March 6, 1964, using the same poison as some of these others have been killed with. His successor will be named Constantinos. He will be forced out of office by a military coup because of his childish inabilities. And so Egypt won't be spared either. In the mid-1970s, a dictatorial statesman named Abd el-Gamal Nasser will be poisoned just as years earlier, as his friend the Emir of Kuwait, who will die in 1965, poisoned at the hands of his own family. Mentions King Faisal in Saudi Arabia in 1975 will be shot by members of his own family. She said this series of political intrigues and deaths were among the most important dates coming over the next 20 years, and Billy was very cautioned at the time not to reveal them because these events needed to play their hand out and happen exactly the way that they were. She was very careful of not wanting to disturb any of the natural events of the future. So Billy didn't, even though they were all written down and tucked away for a while. He never really talked about them, and he kept them very quiet. The next section in his prophecy book deals with some prophecies that he actually received and some training he received from Semjase when he was in the beam ship with her. And I related this story to you once before, so I'll just run it over closely. They had a device inside of the ship which you could hold your hand on and think about any person that you wanted to actually know something about, either the conscious mind or the subconscious mind. And by placing your hand on this, you could actually read what was going on in their subconscious thoughts. And you could look into their future, because all of our subconsciouses are connected to our future and have some knowledge of it. Well, Billy was shown how to use the device, which he did, and he chose to look at the life of General Francisco Franco at the time of Spain. And when he did, he was able to look into the conscious mind of this person and see that he was terribly afraid of dying, that there was a lot of fear. And when the equipment was adjusted, Billy was able to look into the subconscious and was surprised to see that there was no fear of death inside the subconscious. And he was reminded by Semjase that that's only natural, because the subconscious mind, which is attached always directly to the spiritual subconscious, knows and is aware that death itself is nothing to really fear, that it's just a carrying on into a different state. So that part is in there as well. That explained how quite often the Pleiadians would be able to understand things about us. On another occasion, Billy had been told by Semjase that Pope Paul VI would be killed by his own cardinals. And Billy asked her later on, he says, something's going on here, because there was a prediction that Pope Paul VI would be killed by the cardinals, but he is not. He's still in office, and he wanted to know what happened. And she says, oh, yes, it did happen. 2 years after he was named to the office, he was killed. And he doesn't understand this. And he says, you're speaking in riddles. How can I understand that? Pope Paul VI is still alive, and yet he was poisoned and is dead? I don't understand what you mean. So she went on to explain that the good Pope Paul VI was recognized as being, he went against most of the goals and purposes of the Catholic bishops and cardinals. So they went into a secret conference and decided to get rid of him. So it was decided by a secret ballot that the Pope would be killed by assassins, and that there would be a double put in his place who would follow the designs of the bishops and the cardinals. So Pope Paul VI was poisoned to death and replaced by the cardinals with someone with astonishing similarities. They even went to the trouble of, after the double was put in place, they even went to the trouble of erasing most of Pope Paul VI's personal belongings, pictures, books showing him in school and his earlier life and so forth, so it would erase any images of what the man really looked like. Billy, on a couple of occasions, also received prophecies from what he calls the Patali level. And as I explained earlier, the Patali level is the highest consciousness in the universe. It is a level of collective consciousness that has risen to that knowledge where it is beyond the physical realm and has total knowledge of all that they see and total understanding. On Thursday, the 29th of January, 1976, at 1:05 a.m., Billy received these prophecies. Now, these prophecies are particularly kind of stinging to our future, because this particular prophecy was all revolving around the evil one, the Anti-Logos, the sign of the 666, the Antichrist, if you will. And it is the short story here kind of about his life and what's going to happen. And I'll go over and kind of tell you basically the details here. But it reads pretty much the same as any of us who have read in the Bible and so forth. There doesn't seem to be much difference really in the prophecy at all. And it's one of great destruction and war and so forth, and it's certainly a bad time to be in Europe. So it says it's the child of the evil one, the child of destruction it's called. There will be a deadly adversary to knowledge, wisdom, and truth. The Anti-Logos then appears in multiple forms. It is the power of the evil one, the 666, which means there is against the truth of creation, is what the 666 actually stands for. We think of it as the Antichrist because we're told by religions that the Antichrist person will be against Christ. Well, part of that is true because Christ, which is the name given to Emmanuel, who taught the truth about what creation is, But they're saying here that the 666 is really against the truth of creation. So we are a little wrong in our explanation. It's an antichrist. It's not an antichrist, it's an anti-truth situation. And that the symbolism of 666 means it'll be through a time period when people will refuse to believe the truth about creation and will refuse to live their lives according to spiritual laws and truth of spirit. Okay, and it talks about this Antichrist, as I will call him, since that's what we're all used to hearing, is the embodiment of the powerful, lawless bloodthirstiness of the Anti-Logos. He has deceptive powers. He'll be capable of what we think of as miracles, all types of temptations, deceptions, lies, and fraud. It says something about in the 8th sequence is conceived the Anti-Logos in totality. The thing is the person of untruth, of humiliation, of destruction, and of death. I don't understand what 8th sequence means, but someone that is more into the numerology.
8th sequence is like, say you have like 1 baby, 2 babies, 3 babies, so it's all in sequence. So there's going to be 7 evil ones, and then the 8th one will be the Antichrist, the little horn. That's what the 8th sequence is. Just so you know. Just in case. But the 8th sequence is like the next in line type thing. So after 7 babies, the 8th one will be the really, really bad one, I guess. Like the one that will give rise to the mark of the beast.
This probably does. It says before the Antichrist is born, there are 7 embodiments of powerful ones, all part of the Anti-Logos or evil sort of buildup apparently that's going on. 7 children of the evil one that are bent on death and destruction will kill millions of people. The actual Antichrist, the one that we think of as the Antichrist, will be the child of the evil one, born in the womb of a devoted woman of God, conceived in falsehood and lies by the monk. There'll be a monk somehow which will make this woman present.
So you're aware, this Antichrist, or this Anti-Logos, the evil one in the 8th sequence, the one that's going to be the Antichrist, the one that will give the mark of the beast breath, Billy Meyer says that he is a descendant of Muhammad, the Prophet Muhammad, and he will look like what Jesus Christ or Emmanuel looked like 2,000 years ago. So,
pregnant. He will be born in some inconspicuous place in the east around sunrise, around the 7th hour in the morning. He will be left outside to die. Well, they think he will, as the monk will, but he isn't. Instead, he's taken and brought to the east and cared for by someone they call a treacherous one, someone who never gets his fill of fraud and deception. The child of this evil one, the Antichrist, actually exists in multiple forms, the now and the before, because they're talking here about the fact that the Antichrist will be the duplicate, look like the twin of Emmanuel, but in appearance, but still isn't actually a duplicate. This Antichrist child will be protected and surrounded by the power of the one called the Evil One, who he understands the great power that the Antichrist will have. Apparently, this Antichrist child will come into its power in about its 11th year. And approximately 8 years after that, when he's 19, apparently his abilities of mind become very strong, and he will be able to control people through thought. He's the complete killer of all truth, teaching heresy, delusion. He's just definitely been on destruction. His says here that the fruits of his evil begin to happen around his 30th year. But by the 19th year, he's already has been able to cause a lot of death. His power comes in killing. He burns the world, that there will be 27 years of hate and bloodshed and fire because of him. Sounds like a pretty sight, doesn't it? It even goes on to talk about the plant kingdom and so forth. Learns how to thrive on the blood, that there are so many deaths on the ground that the blood just flows like water on the ground, that there's so much loss of life. Goes on to talk about here that he comes in kind of a disguised form at the beginning. When we first start to see him, he will present himself as a follower of Jesus Christ. He will pretend to be sent from God, a preparer of the way. He will call himself the great Savior. He even puts himself as a creation and says that he is the creation himself and has created all of us. So he's full of delusion, fear, power. In actuality, he's just out to exterminate things and kill all life off here on the planet. Talks about the war beginning because of him, blood and fire, horrible firestorms. Here again we have this mention of firestorms where the air is actually ignited and set on fire somehow and just brings horrible death to large areas of people. It says it is the time of vice seen as a virtue, that there will be cult religions.
And if you think about when vice is seen as a virtue, he's talking about drugs and alcohol, vices, right? And then when he talks about cults and cult religions, he's talking about Christianity, Catholicism, Muslim, Hindu, Buddhist, like all religions he's talking about, because all religions have been altered. All the teachings that the prophets or the heralds of old had brought had all been altered, changed, and that's to manipulate and control the people.
One killing the other, people literally just going crazy. And the war will last, it says, for approximately 27 years, and this Antichrist will raise armies which have possession of the deadliest weapons on the planet and will bring the whole world to its knees. I don't know where this guy's going to come from. Mentions also that he's capable of stealing the thoughts of men, is how they would say it. So apparently he has the ability to really perceive how.
Then you got to think, because now they have this this voice-to-skull technology, which the CIA was doing back in like the 1950s and 60s, where they can put a voice or somebody speaking into your head to where you think where you're going crazy, or you're schizophrenic, or you're hearing voices and you're just nuts, right? That's technology that they had done. So when this Antichrist person comes, he's going to make everybody think that he had created everybody, and he's going to be able to tell the people, like, in their heads that he's the Messiah or the Savior or the chosen one that's going to come and save everybody. Like, this is all just being set up. The person whom I think is behind it all, I think it has to do with the royals, like King Charles and his kids, and then all the rest of the royals that are still alive in the world, right? So
people think and also control their thoughts. He somehow is very wise in future events.
And he can steal the thoughts of men. So this is coinciding with digital currency, digital ID. Because with the voice-to-skull technology, they'll be able to put voices in your head, thoughts in your head that you won't know if it's your thought or another thought coming from somebody else, right? And with the AI, I think we're going to have a lot of problems with this AI that's coming. Right? Billy says it's like straight up, the AI is going to enslave us. Like, it's going to take over and make us all slaves. They're going to control us.
Carefully, and interprets certain events that are about to happen. For instance, he knows when a giant comet is about to strike the Earth, causing flooding and so forth, and tremendous problems. And apparently he'll take advantage of that. He's the biggest enemy of the Earth, chosen himself to be more horrible and deadly than anything else we've ever seen. It says, deadly and burning like gold of the sun, destroying through metal birds and lightning of death. This happens towards the middle of the year, close to the turn of the millennium. Well, we're coming up to that. It's 92, so we're getting closer to the turn of the millennium. So this is beginning to sound like this deadly war could break out 95, 6, 7, maybe in that period at some point.
Just so you know, too, because he said here that this deadly war could break out in 95, 94, 96, somewhere around there. But you see, back in the 1950s, Dr. John Coleman wrote a book called The Committee of 300, and it talked about how he had discovered that these people in power, which is like the Rockefellers, the Rothschilds, all the rich, the 1%, that actually the shadow government, they run the world. He talks about how, hold on here, let me get back to my thoughts.
It says also, so this is beginning to sound like this deadly war could break out 95, 6, 7, maybe in that period.
Oh, that's what I was thinking. Okay, because he says that they were going to eliminate or cause a war or whatnot by the turn of the new millennium, which would have been the year 2000. But because after World War II, everybody pushed for peace and no war and whatnot, then at that moment in time, consciousness had changed all around the world to where people didn't want wars and stuff. So what happened was, in the prophecy, because of prophecy, people can change by their actions and thoughts and behavior, right? So if everybody don't want war and then push to make the government not go to war, then that can stop the war, or it can prolong it, which is what has happened here. Because of after World War II, everybody said no more war, we don't want war, never again. It prolonged it, you know what I mean? So it put it on hold and it moved it down the road some. So you see, the government, or these people in power, they had their 2021 agenda or their 2020 agenda, which then they moved to 2030, which is now, it's that same thing just pushed down the road further, and now they're trying to accomplish their goal then, you know, where they want to get rid of everybody except for 500 million of the rich. And then they say 500 million Asian people, because they say that the Asians are already regimented to do as authority says, so they won't fight back, they won't argue back to where Americans or Canadians or Australians, like people in the West, don't do as the government says, to whereas people in the East do as the government says. Like if you look it up on, if you Google it, just look at the most vaccinated country in the planet, and I guarantee you that would be like Iran, Afghanistan, Egypt, Turkey, India, all those places over there, and even China. All those places over there are probably maxed out on the vaccines and boosters, to whereas Canada, America, and other places like that, a lot of people didn't go and get those cancerous shots, right? And they want people, and I think that's why they're going to push people away from Christianity or whatnot, because they need you to be away from it, because I don't think they got the mark of the beast written down in the Quran or in the Muslims' material, right? So I don't think they know about this mark of the beast that's going to come, so they need everybody, or a big majority of people, to abandon Christianity and Catholicism and, you know, the Western religions. They need people to abandon them to go with the other ones, and eventually they're going to make their own religion. Oh, here, I forgot to hit play.
says also, woe to the city of the peace conference in the heart of Europe, that idolaters, men in power and so forth, start piling up large amounts of silver and gold and so forth.
No. See, there's another spot there. He said, here, listen to this.
It says also, woe to the city of the peace conference in the heart of Europe, that idolaters, men in power and so forth, start piling up large amounts of silver and gold and so forth.
Now, these men start piling up on silver and gold. Now, this was done in 1950, Billy said this. In 1992, Randolph Winters put it on a tape, and now we're hearing it where there's talking about where idolaters and men of power, men who have lots of money, are going to start stocking up on silver and gold. Now, if you look at it back in 2020, silver and gold wasn't where it's at now because the dollar's collapsing, because we're going to have a global financial collapse. And when that happens, Billy Meyer says that the rich will save gold and they'll be able to purchase stuff with gold, while these people in power are going to try and put a bulwark in to put everybody underneath digital currency, digital ID to control you. But some people, a good amount of people, are going to keep silver and gold, which will screw over their plan to take control of the money to enslave everybody. But that's what they're doing now. They're stocking up on silver and gold, and it's only going to get worse, and that's because the financial collapse is coming. See?
It says also, woe to the city of the peace conference in the heart of Europe, that idolaters, men in power and so forth, start piling up large amounts of silver and gold and so forth. The first war is stored up in the east and the north, and earth goes around its sun twice.
Now, the first war is stored up in the east and the north, so northeast, which he says that there's been a plan since the 1970s to start a war from Germany against Russia. And then he even talks about how thousands of shiny little hornets will bombard Germany, and it'll be like 1,000 atomic suns blowing up there. So I think Russia's going to bomb Germany with nuclear bombs, nukes. And on top of it, they're going to use their drones to bombard the cities, right? And then he talks about planes that will just listen to this stuff. This is crazy because it's all taking place now.
Silver and gold and so forth.
He even said that the next world war, when it starts, it'll start between two countries in the Middle East, which he said would be Iran and Israel, which is starting now. He even said that Russia will go to war with Iran and Turkey, and while they're doing this, they're going to strive to gain control over the Middle East oil deposits, right? Well, they're finishing off Iran now, and then there's a prime minister that just come out and said that Turkey is a direct threat to Israel, which means they're probably going to set up to go after Turkey next, right? So.
And the north, and earth goes around its sun twice. Okay, then there'll be 10 moon revolutions where there will be a peace after that war. 10 revolutions of the moon, it says, there will be a deceptive peace, and then just when we're not expecting it again, metal messengers of death.
And when he talked about the war in the east and the north, I think that also has to do with Ukraine against Russia. And then he talked about 10 months of peace. Well, when there was a ceasefire in Ukraine and Russia, did that last 10 months?
They carry in themselves lightning, fire, and heat. The cities of Europe start falling and burning in ashes, and there's just nothing. All are killed. It says 3 revolutions around the sun that the anti-logos again exerts itself. And he has become grown now, very powerful, but he is murdered in the 3rd revolution, whatever the 3rd revolution actually means. So 27 years would have passed during these 3 major epics of war, it's beginning to look like. And it just talks a little bit about what is left. The 2/3 of the population of the planet will have died out. That men then, the people that are remaining then, will have woken up, will consider all the survivors and to look to each other as brothers. and that this is the time when actually people then will start turning to the spirit. We'll have come face to face with how the religions have really caused so many problems, and how the deadly cults and so forth have really run people's thinking, made illogical thinking, turned brother against brother. And it's a great time then for the spirit to find some have worth, and people will start to begin to turn towards the creational laws and start to live in peace and wisdom. There are several other short prophecies given by this Batali level at different times. On Saturday, the 31st of January, 1976, Billy was giving another little prophecy about a meteor. That apparently, it says that there will be a great meteor come from outer space and hit.
And so in 1950, Billy Meier was talking to his contacts where he had spoke about asteroid Apophis, which he says it can impact the Earth on April 13th, 2029, or April 13th, 2036. Now, he said on April 13th, 2029, if it doesn't hit then, it'll swing back around, and there's like this little keyhole spot that if it goes through that spot, it'll directly impact the Earth. And he said it will hit near the Black Sea, which will cause volcanoes to erupt, tsunamis, and earthquakes, and tons of more devastating destruction all over the planet. But
planet Earth. See, there are several other short
you gotta wonder, in 1950, Billy's talking about Apophis and how it's going to hit, and the people who discovered it didn't discover Apophis until 2004. Right? So 1950, Billy's talking about it 50 years before, well, even 54 years before it was actually officially discovered by the astronomers. So how did Billy Meier know about it in 1950? And we didn't discover it until 2004. And that also goes to say with underneath the pyramids of Giza, like the pyramids in Egypt. In 1948, 1950, Billy Meier once again talking about going into the pyramids, into a secret hallway that led to a spiral staircase that went about 2,000 feet underneath the ground, where he describes what's under there, where he talks about there's huge rooms that are open. It's like a little underground city that there's like little rooms down there for people to live in and to store food and whatnot. And this all had to coincide with the biblical flood. So now, how did Billy Meier know about it in 1950, and we didn't discover that shit until 2024, 2025 with the ground penetrating radar shit, right? So that makes like he's like everything Billy says is right.
Level at different times. On Saturday, the 31st of January, 1976, Billy was giving another little prophecy about a meteor. That apparently, it says that there will be a great meteor come from outer space and can hit the planet Earth. Like a comet, it says it falls into the big pond, burns the air like a glowing ball. In the year, with the worth of 3, with a hideous bang. So you may want to figure out whatever year then has the worth of 3. It says that it's a gigantic comet that hits so hard.
Yeah, Apophis is supposed to be bigger than Texas, this asteroid that's coming. Bigger than Texas, which he says we'll be able to see from Earth around the time that it's going to hit, like when it comes close to us.
People cry out and so forth for misery because it's causing so much havoc on the planet. Apparently there's giant flooding, the air is just terrible. People are yelling and screaming, but there's nothing that they can really do. So we have that to look forward to, apparently, in the year with a worth of 3. The Batali level at that same time also gave us some more little cheering news. It just talks about how the Mother Nature is going to rise up, and there are going to be tremendous gales, typhoons, and hurricanes, which are going to be far greater than anything we've seen before. Well, we're already starting to see those, but in the past year, hurricanes hit Hawaii and the southern part of Florida and so forth and wiped out whole cities. It says that ships, giants of the sea, sink in the sea, and great hosts of soldiers will be wiped out. Iron birds that through the air they fly, crushed they will lie on the earth, crash in the sign of madness. says, in great numbers, the metal birds fall from the sky, cries of help, but it's of no help. Nothing can be done. So apparently we're going to have a lot of airplanes in the air, it looks like. There's going to be a lot of reports of airplanes hitting the ground with great amount of death caused by natural causes and so forth. So that same cheery prophecy goes on for about another page, just kind of letting the people of Earth know that we've created most of this through our thinking. Again, evidence that our subconscious really does affect the planet. Well, I see we're running out of tape, so I'll see you on the other side. Well, welcome back here to side 2 of the prophecies. And again, I reiterate that these are prophecies, that we have some control on these events, although a lot of the things we're talking about now are predictions which come from the higher Patali level, which come to pass whether we really have any say-so about it or not. Most of these events that the Patali level is passing on to us are events of natural disasters, volcanic, earthquake, and so forth, how the world is really going to change. And there's not much we can really do anything about it. If something were to be done about it, it would have had to have been done long ago. And apparently the subconscious thoughts, which are emitted by the 5 billion people on Earth, could have had something to do with it. And maybe in the future there's something to make things a little calm.
Hey now!
On Wednesday, the 4th of February, 1976, at 6:10 a.m., Billy apparently never sleeps. He does all reading this stuff. He received another level of information from the Patali level, which talks mostly about earthquakes and volcanoes. And it talks about the volcanoes swelling up so high that they burst forth, of course, catapulting fire and lava through the air, causing great destruction of life. And it goes on to mention, and I'll read just a little bit here, it says, already the first time of destruction is here in the Southland, the old original inhabitants of America.
Sorry guys, had somebody at my door.
This land will be hit hard in the near future, as will the land on which the black men hope. Europe will not be spared from the evil, for there under the land resides hell. Billy had been shown once, even inside the ship, that there is volcanic action beneath certain parts of Europe which no one's really even aware of, which will erupt and cause major loss of life. It says one will speak sadly of the boot country, and that's of course Italy, and also of the countries with the blessing of earth gold. Also the land of the cherry blossoms will be shaken, and the city on the trench will be totally filled with rubble. This could probably be interpreted as San Francisco, the city on the trench, and that could be the San Andreas Trench here that they're talking about. Also the folk in the country of the sword lion will suffer, and the star and the half moon will not be avoided. Country of the gods will be hit or hard hit. The countries of the dragon and the hope of peace, when the fire of the volcano glistens hellishly, and the earthquake tears apart everything in many lands. So it's a pretty not very cheery scenario there. It talks about in Latin America, the border countries in Latin America, says in the south from Latin America's borders, there the earthquake will hit very hard, taking a lot of lives. And there's just a little bit more mention, but it doesn't go into detail on this particular one, any more exact locations. Just kind of that coding there that we read a little bit earlier, so you might try to figure that out. There is unfortunately kind of a sad commentary on Great Britain. It talks about the island kingdom has been shaken in the northern Atlantic waters. It's the year of evil, the black time there where death awaits the country. It says the crown vacillates as an evil reward, as work and deed of the cult religion. Politics plays a role as well and destroys the good island homeland. The crown falls and breaks. The house of Windsor is asunder. The island.
Now, if you think about it, now remember, 1992 this tape was made. 1950 Billy Meyer said this. And if you look at the UK right now, do you think the UK is thriving and doing good? Or do you think the politicians have sold their country out and is destroying it? Now, that's what Billy Meyer says will happen to it. And he also says that the king or the royals there. Only myths and legends will be told of it because there's supposed to be a big bloody revolution that's going to be coming to the UK. Listen to this.
The kingdom is shaken, plays a role as well, and destroys the good, evil.
Right here.
Unfortunately, kind of a sad commentary on Great Britain. It talks about the island kingdom has been shaken in the northern Atlantic waters. It's the year of evil, the black time there where death awaits the country. It says the crown vacillates as an evil reward, as work and deed of the cult religion. Politics plays a role as well and destroys the good island homeland. The crown falls and breaks. The house of Windsor is asunder. The island kingdom is shaken. Bones are brittle and pale. The kingdom has fallen. Only legends about it remain. In the prophecies, there's something very interesting which I've never understood very well. It happened on Thursday, the 4th of March, 1987, at 1:47 a.m. And I'll go through this prophecy. It's from the Patali level again. And it's talking about someone in Switzerland. And it goes through talking about this individual, and you'll see what I mean. And after you hear the prophecy, it's confusing a little bit about who they're actually referring to. It almost sounds like they're talking about Billy, but it doesn't come out and say so. It says, "You shepherd boy in very beautiful Switzerland, your blind eyes are filled with sand. In your own megalomania thinking that you know better, you perceive yourself very educated, clever, and wise, when the father of death slowly sneaks up." It says, audaciously, this person of Switzerland will think that he knows all the prophecies very well, which are being explained to him. He will want to be very wise and clever, although only really stupid ignorance screams inside of you, it says. You believe in your great exuberance that the prophecies were of no importance to you, and you even thought that you knew everything, and yet what do you know when, if you had to? Be honest with yourself, it says. Everything is only illusion, an evil product from your megalomania shrine. It is easy for you to say after the fact that you had seen it all coming yourself. Where is your wisdom to do this? It says, all of your knowledge and thoughts rest. It says, don't overexert yourself in your exaggerations, for through them you will cause feuds for yourself. It says, you always want to be wiser than the others, then why aren't these prophecies your own? Remember, if you know and can do everything better, why has death and need sprung up everywhere? There's no truth in what you think, which shows your erroneous, stupid sense. You cannot interpret one single event in order to explain it to the Swiss people before it happens. Nevertheless, Swiss person, you presume so to say, I knew it all along and more. But what did you know? Not the least. Therefore, the death nation's already grinning at you. It goes on to talk about mountains that will break off. There's going to be great fires. It says the metal of the SBB, which is the Swiss train system, is torn in many places. It says you don't pay attention to these signs. You don't see the damage, the need, and the corpse. You presume very much and even say that you knew everything beforehand. But you will see that your speeches are dung and your prophecies only utter ruse. For now that the first events have happened as an introduction, you will see many things much worse. There will be a great crash on the SBB soon. It will be termed the bad luck train. There's going to be mountains falling and major loss of life in Switzerland. This is a coming hell is coming to Switzerland. Mountains will break off the ridges, destroy live houses, huge areas. The Wergenspitz Mountain, it says, was only the beginning. Now, I don't know what the Wergenspitz Mountain's all about. We might want to look and see if something's happened with a mountain called Wergenspitz and see if that's happened yet. So it's because other mountains will follow this severe crashing action. The lakes, of course, will cause great misery, it says, and demand victims as well. That there will be great fire. The earth itself will quake dangerously, and the Swiss will experience then hell day after day of fear. It goes on to talk about water, storms, droughts, and snow will rule. The hearts of the Swiss people will turn even colder. All the cantons, which are what they call counties in Switzerland, in beautiful Switzerland, will live on with gruesome, cold hand of death. And then it says, and Switzerland will become a coffin many times over. Then you can say again, O Swiss person, that you carried all this knowledge in yourself, that you knew of all the coming events because you had seen them prophetically. You want to be very clever and so intelligent, thinking that your wisdom fell like snow on your head. But where is your wisdom? Where your knowledge? For it is always invisible, just to be overlooked. Therefore, don't boast about supposed understanding and ancient supposed understanding, and don't praise yourself too much because you really know nothing at all. This is a really curious prophecy. It's talking about somebody in Switzerland who's thinking they're very prophetic, who knows a lot, and who really knows nothing. It doesn't give us any indication of who it is. First time I read it, I thought there was some strange miswritten thing and it was referring to Billy, but there's no reference.
Oh, my phone died. I'm gonna die. Maybe. Oh, maybe not. My phone died. Oh, you bastard! Yeah, that's it for now anyways, guys. I might be back on in a bit, but thank you all for coming and watching, checking it out. Like and subscribe. Have a good night, all.